Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Total Drama Podcast. This episode, we will be discussing the comparisons of Total Drama and the Ridonculous Race format. So, I'm Bongo9911. I'm a moderator of the Total Drama subreddit. Bo?
I'm Bowman3058, RP host.
Beaky?
I'm Beaky, resident Brit.
JT?
J_tenant TD rank down host and mod of the subreddit.
Alright, so, first off, you want to talk about challenges?
Yeah, I feel like challenges are a very key difference between Ridonculous Race and the Total Drama format. While Total Drama revolves around voting people out by votes, Ridonculous Race focuses on eliminating people who fail in challenges. This obviously creates a huge difference in the two series, with challenges being much, much more important in the Ridonculous Race format.
Definitely. So, I think what happened with Total Drama and the Ridonculous Race is early on with Total Drama, the challenges were really good and creative and original, but they kind of went down in quality, and then Ridonculous Race kind of shot back up to the quality of the original seasons.
Yeah, I definitely think that.
I think that they had to make it a lot more original based on locations, and I think what they did with that, with having to come up with new creative ideas, it made it fresh and new again, like the first season. I think that was a really good kind of rebound to form.
Yeah,
It
because
also helps they weren't.
Hmm?
Oh, alright. It also helps they weren't tied to just that one location, so that way they were able to make so many new different challenges.
yeah, definitely. I think another problem that All Stars has faced among all the other ones was the whole season's challenges were based around copying other challenges.
Yeah, I think like another thing to mention is Revenge of the Island and All Stars in particular. Basically, like over half the challenges were like complete this obstacle course sort of thing.
Yeah, that's
And
what I was thinking.
I feel like that's something to mention about Survivor, which is obviously what Total Drama is based off of, is that they're very notorious for basically repeating the same challenges over and over again because nobody cares about the challenges in Survivor, not nearly as much as they care about the votes.
What about 50? How long can you hold on to this item challenges?
Yeah, basically, like it's a thing with Survivor and Total Drama. Their challenges, wouldn't say they suck or anything, but they don't need to be good.
All
It's
right.
because they're not the main focus.
Jump off this cliff.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey guys, you want to jump off another cliff?
Meanwhile, The Amazing Race basically never repeats challenges. They've had like 30 seasons now, I think, and they've only repeated challenges that have become notorious. For instance, the challenge of rolling cheese down a hill, which was notorious. They've repeated the challenge where you had to search for a needle in a haystack because it's been notorious. Otherwise, they've kept with consistently unique challenges. And we saw that in the Ridonculous Race, where they basically never repeated the same thing twice.
Yeah, that was great.
Yep.
So that's definitely one point towards the Ridonculous Race for challenges being far superior.
Definitely. Yeah, I really like the challenges that they had in the Ridonculous Race. They were like really cool.
Because it was so based on... No, continue.
Oh, I feel like they kind of modernized some of the challenges too. Like one of the challenges where they had the selfie kind of thing.
Yeah. That's exactly what The Amazing Race did, actually. The Amazing Race has started to incorporate hashtags and things.
Alright, JT, do you want to finish?
Nah, I'm chewing food right now, but...
Professional.
I didn't think you would be that fast. But I think that based on locations, it allowed them to do a lot of cool things, and I think that definitely gives them an advantage because you have so much more material to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that gives us a good way to lead into location.
See, now location's an interesting topic because there's a key plus side and a key downside to Ridonculous Race in terms of location. On the plus side, they never get drained of ideas or inspiration because they never stay in one location long enough to do that. However, the downside is if they wanted a second season of the Ridonculous Race, they've used up a lot of countries and they'd have to repeat some. And then you get to worry about, well, can they really do another Transylvania episode if they've used up all this vampire thing?
Yeah. I think another problem with the location thing was that the characters aren't all centralized in one location, so that kind of harms it a bit with the character development and interactions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like another issue is that you can't have like some Easter eggs kind of on locations, so you're always changing them often.
I feel like to mention about the total drama format is while you're staying in one location for the same time, and that typically lowers the creativity, staying in one location does also mean you don't need to completely set up a new scene every time you go somewhere. In
Yeah,
Ridonculous Race, I wouldn't say they wasted time, but they definitely used up a lot of time on setting the scene, saying this is where you are, establishing shots, that sort of thing. If you
Yeah.
have the total drama format, you don't need to do that.
Here we are. We're on Camp Wawanakwa. Boom. There you go.
Yeah, use the same background shots all the time. You don't. It's also presumably a lot cheaper.
Definitely, because they don't have to draw new stuff every single time.
Yeah, which means the stuff they do have is usually higher quality. It's just it's safe. It's a much safer bet going for one scene, one location rather.
Yeah, but it is still pretty
Another
cool
thing-
seeing all the locations.
Yeah, I think another thing to mention about having one location, like Todrom Island, is when you do introduce a secondary location, like Boney Island, that place feels a lot more special or a lot more unique. Whilst in the Ridonculous Race, they go to another place, it's just another place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, we're in another country. There you go. Boom.
So I feel like in terms of location, I would personally think that the Total Drama format has the upside.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. How about we talk about some interaction next?
Yeah, this is specifically mentioning about character interaction, and more specifically in terms of the Ridonculous Race format is extra team interaction. So
Yeah.
interactions between, for instance, Emma and Noah.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest faults of Ridonculous Race is that there's just not enough of the teams interacting with each other.
No, it's it's very limited, and when it is, it's only to kind of push certain plots forward. And I
Yeah.
think that was a very kind of, it takes away a lot compared to like other stuff, and I think that was one of the few faults it really had.
Yeah. I think they maybe give too much focus to the challenges sometimes and not enough to the
Yeah.
characters.
I feel like that's one of those things about Ridonculous Race is the extra team interactions were some of the best scenes. For instance, Ryan's interactions with people,
Sure.
the whole Junior and Carrie thing, and then you had the Goths and Devon interacting. Those are all some of the funniest and best moments. MacArthur and Brody, like
MacArthur and
amazing.
Brody's
Yeah,
best.
those are great.
Yeah.
However,
I'm a
when
little
you
biased
when
on
you
that, but
when you have this thing, you might even actually say that because they have less extra team interaction, it makes those extra team interactions more valuable or better.
I suppose. I don't really know. I like the team's interactions that they have. I just kind of wish they had more of them so we get to see
Yeah.
a little more variety.
I feel like one thing to mention about that is it also opens it up to the debate of can you really do this again? Because since so many of the characters are very highly dependent on their one team interaction, like Kitty and Emma sort of trying to reach a middle ground with understanding each other, for instance, you can't really have them appear as a couple again because they've completed their arc.
Yeah. Like a lot of the arcs were just built around this season, so there wasn't enough to kind of get them out.
Meanwhile, with the total drama format, you can have different characters interacting at different times. So if Lashana and Heather had an interaction in their first season, then you can have Lashana and Harold interact the next season and it'd be a completely different story.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We also didn't get to like see them kind of like relax ever, because I guess that's like the whole Amazing Race thing. There is no relaxing. It's just you're
Yeah.
always playing. So there's not really any time to see them doing all their fun stuff, like how in Total Drama Island they're hanging out in the hot tub or watching a movie.
I feel like that's one of those things that Total Drama definitely has over the Ridonculous Race is you've got a whole bunch of extra scenes that I wouldn't consider wasted or anything. It's more just so much more content,
Yeah.
or it feels like more content.
It's a lot more character building.
Yeah.
Just-
So does anyone disagree when I say that I feel like Total Drama definitely has the edge on Ridonculous Race when it comes to interactions?
no.
Not at all.
All right. What else? character development. Um,
I feel like character development is an interesting one because I feel like in terms of a series as a whole, the total drama format offers more opportunities over a longer period of time. However, the Ridonculous Race format is very succinct with developing characters. And if you look at the teams of Ridonculous Race, very few, honestly none, go through the entire competition, no matter how far they got, without getting some kind of development. Even the tennis rivals got some sort of development
Yeah.
with their after interview sort of things. They're very succinct with their development.
Yeah, they did. I think Ridonculous Race did a pretty good job with developing their characters to the fullest with the time they had.
My one issue would be like, you would know like early on. For example, like you'd see like, I don't know, like the scientists, scientists, geniuses, and you know like, okay, they're getting developed, so they're probably getting out soon.
Yeah, that is true. But however, they did sort of subvert that quite a few times. For instance, the Goths had quite a big role in Transylvania and in Finland, and they didn't get eliminated either of those times.
Right,
True.
like that was kind of the transition point where it would be like, development doesn't equal you're getting eliminated that episode.
Yeah.
Like when Tom and Jen had the whole argument over who started the blog, that was the end of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like another thing to mention is in relation to character development, with the total drama format, you're not planning each character to have a super complete arc in their season. There are going to be characters that have unsatisfying endings. The problem with this is you might write the season 2 and season 3 character very differently from how you wrote the season 1 character, which leads to some characters being overrated or underrated in terms of they get too much screen time and their stories don't quite line up, or they get too little screen time and people feel like they were just, why were they there?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think Total Drama just sometimes doesn't develop their characters to the point that they should be developed.
I think a lot of time they rely on them, like, okay, we're gonna rewrite this character next season, and then they don't bring them back, and then it's just left off.
Yeah. There's so many examples of that, like especially with people like Ezekiel, where they sort of didn't know what to do with his character after the first season, but people wanted him back, so they wrote him a very unsatisfying.
They're just like, hey, let's do the exact same thing with Ezekiel that we did in the first season.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it makes the writers seem like bad writers, which I don't think they are. I feel like they just have made mistakes like any writer will. So would people say that Total Drama or Ridonculous Race, in terms of format, has the edge on character development?
I think Ridonculous Race definitely built their characters better for development, but I don't know if they're better for development.
I see what you mean. Like, I definitely think in the long run, Total Drama has the advantage, but in the short term, season by season basis, Ridonculous Race wins. I'd say I'd honestly give a point to both sides on this, because it depends on whether you're talking season by season or overall.
And it also comes down to personal preference.
That's true as well.
Definitely true. All right, what do we want to talk about next? How about the hosts?
The hosts. Now, very interesting thing about the hosts is I feel like the most basic descriptors of how they're different is that Chris is sadistic and psychopathic, while Don is much more level-headed, still being able to get angry, but seems to be much happier and positive overall. I feel like they're both extremely good hosts for their respective shows. For instance, Don helps add a bit of levity to a very tense show, while Chris helps stir the pot, so to speak, and constantly keep drama going between the castmates.
Yeah, I think they both add a lot depending on their certain seasons, and I think that if it was switched around, they'd both kind of struggle a little.
Yeah, I feel like if Don was the host of Total Drama, it would be he just wouldn't be able to hold up the whole malicious intent. He wouldn't be able to do those things to the cast members to make challenges more difficult, for instance. Meanwhile, Chris would be a bit too. Chris would probably try and involve himself too much in Ridonculous Race, I feel.
Yeah. I can definitely see that happening. Like him trying to make it so that this team gets a disadvantage because, oh my gosh, the drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really like Don because he kind of feels like someone you could just hang out with. Like he's kind of just a cool guy.
Yeah, and that sort of relaxed attitude is like the perfect foil to the Ridonculous Race format.
Can we bring Don back as a contestant?
Honestly, he would make a
Our
much better
team,
contestant
Don.
of Total Drama than a host.
Imagine Don facing off against the people he hosted against.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
That would be so weird.
But yeah, I feel like in terms of hosts, there's no real clear winner. It's more that both hosts were very well written for their show, and both were excellent characterizations or caricatures of the real life hosts of The Amazing Race and Survivor.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's some characters who I feel like take away more than they add, but I think both of the hosts kind of add a lot more than they take away.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I feel like it's also important to mention that the hosts are the only characters that sort of are definitely staying for the whole season, so they really had to get those characters right.
Oh, definitely. Oh, also,
And I feel like they did.
Really,
They got them perfectly right.
we didn't really bring up Chef at all.
Chef is good.
No, I feel like Chef is interesting in that the only reason he existed was because the show was about teenagers, and it was about a summer camp experience, and they needed that sort of antagonist in a way, or more like an anti-hero sort of thing, where because it's at the end of the day, I know it's a reality show, but it's also supposed to be a teen drama show, and he sort of adds this this sort of level of the authority figure that they have to fight against and uprise against, and he did his job very well.
Yeah.
Especially his plot playing against Izzy.
Yeah.
Chef versus Izzy.
Chef
The
vs.
great
Izzy was
battle.
one of the best like character sort of duos, the sort of double acts in the series.
Chef and Izzy for the Ridonculous Race. Let's go.
I would see it. I would
That
love
would be
it.
great.
Alright, so are we good with hosts?
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
In review, neither wins by a landslide. Both are very good for their respective seasons.
Alright, so strategy. So I think that's another problem that Ridonculous Race has because a lot of the strategy can just kind of boil down to win the challenge.
Here's the thing: we saw very little strategy in the Ridonculous Race. I feel like there's two important things to mention. One was the whole axis of evil versus the other three teams thing, which was very short-lived. And
Oh.
the second thing was the boomerangs, which the Datas boomeranged themselves, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Which is one of those things that I don't mind that. I don't mind that for drama, and it's a very Ridonculous Race total drama thing to do. However, in terms of strategy, it basically took away a good opportunity for betrayals. We did see a villainous team in the form of of Jose and Jacques, but they were more of a Dick Dastardly and Muttley combo, where their evil schemes basically always failed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the villains. I don't feel like they actually did much with their strategies though. Like they were
I feel like
villains,
it's one of those
but
things. No, yeah, you finish.
yeah, they're villains, but they just didn't do much.
I feel like I get what you mean in that there's a lot of quote-unquote villains in total drama that are more just like mean people. I think Heather's a good example of this in that, sure, she did a lot of strategic plays in World Tour, but in Total Drama Island and Total Drama Action, she basically was just a bitch and got far. Even though there were plenty of opportunities to get rid of her in Total Drama Island, for instance, and Total Drama Action. And
Which was stupid.
like here's the thing, in Total Drama Action, it was so unrealistic for Heather to survive the first elimination when everyone hated her. Everyone was fine with Jeff and Bridget. Even if they found them a bit annoying, they would have still voted Heather. It's just one of those things where the villains in the early seasons and in some of the later seasons, like I can think of a few villains like Scarlet, for instance. She wasn't really villainous. She was just straight up evil. I can think of very few villains that were actually villainous. Like Scott, for instance, was quite a good villain.
Yeah,
in
he
terms
was a
of
really good villain.
he wanted to win the game, but he wasn't a dick in real life. And you have Sugar, for instance. She always understood it was a game and was just like, I'm just going to do what I want to win.
I'm gonna play to win.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Total Drama should, by all means, be better with strategy and portrayals of this strategic game. But I don't think either show has really ever done a solid job of portraying a truly strategic person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That'd be kind of interesting.
Like, I feel like it's one of those things that, especially since the show's grown and all of their fans have grown up, it would be really interesting to see an actual a villain that actually was villainous instead of just evil or bitchy.
Yeah.
I think the closest we've come to that is Alejandro, but even then,
Alejandro was treated as sort of this cheater person, this manipulative person, whereas a lot of villainous people in actual Survivor games wouldn't dream of doing something like that because it would be against their moral codes. We've seen so many villains who are extremely nice people in real life, and it's very unrealistic because in an actual game, it's appropriate to play villainous. It's not deemed a bad thing to be a villain. It's more just deemed as, oh, that's the way you want to play your game. However, in the Total Drama universe, a lot of the villains just seem to be horrible people.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all I have to really say. I feel like Total Drama has the advantage over the Ridonculous Race in terms of there's a lot more opportunity with the whole votes determine things, but I'm kind of disappointed with how little strategic plays there are actually in Total Drama and Ridonculous Race.
Yeah, I think that's what I feel is one of the things that could be added to the show that would still add stuff, because you can still have the character development stuff. Like, you can get character development through that.
Exactly.
And I think that it's a big kind of miss in terms of things that they can add but never have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see it, but I don't know how likely it is that we'll ever see it.
No, I totally agree. Like, it's one of those things that we want to have it, but we might not be able to have it because it's also quite one of those things that's not exactly the easiest thing to portray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Survivor gets away with it with long confessionals and things like that. And the confessionals of Total Drama were more just people expressing their inner thoughts about relationships and things, which isn't how it's on Survivor. In Survivor, it's, this is how I'm trying to vote. This is who my allies are. And it was just very little of it.
Yeah. Definitely. So that's good for strategy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
yeah,
All right. So I guess maybe finally, reusability.
I feel like there's one thing we can discuss before reusability, and that's tension.
Tension.
How tense each of the formats are. The thing is, I feel like both formats have different styles of tension. The Amazing Race / Ridonculous Race format is constantly tense. You're constantly rooting for your favorite team, and every time they slip up, you sort of tense up, and every time they make a stride and do good in a challenge, you feel like, yes, they're safe. It's very constantly high octane.
Yeah.
When they fail, I say no. When they do good, I say yes.
Effectively, yes. Meanwhile, in Total Drama, there's actually very little tension, even to the point where, yeah, you kind of care about which team wins, but you also don't.
But you know who's gonna go as soon as something like big happens. I feel
Yes.
right.
And here's the thing, even if you don't know, the tension is very, very condensed into that moment when Chris is reading out who's safe. And they draw out that tension, but I feel like, honestly, even at its tensest moment,
it was never the same.
Total Drama doesn't hold a candle to Ridonculous Race.
The Courtney thing was kind of tense, but besides that, like,
Yes.
so little.
It's one of those things that they're tense. They do have tense moments, but they're very condensed and very sparse. Ridonculous Race is tense basically 24/7.
Yeah, I
To the
would
point,
agree
like,
with that.
especially because they end so basically every leg in a foot race or close timers for people seeing if their penalties run out, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I can't really think of much else to say about it.
But yeah,
I
um,
agree.
we can then finally move on to reusability, which is arguably the most important point of all of this.
Yeah, I think definitely both of them still can be reused somewhat. Like, both of them have mechanics from the shows they're parodying that they've yet to tap into.
Yes, exactly. Like, I'm not a huge watcher of Survivor, but I know a lot about The Amazing Race. The Amazing Race has several different things: fast forwards, intersections, yields, loads of different mechanics that they haven't tapped into. They've also got quite a lot of places to go to, and even if they repeat countries, there are things they can do. So I definitely think the Ridonculous Race format can be repeated. I mean, we've seen The Amazing Race be repeated season and season again, and Survivor be repeated season and season again. The real question is, which of these formats would grow stale the slowest?
I think
Really
RR
hard.
has potential to, because I don't know if there's as much with it, like whole like places they can go. Like there's at least some stuff that can be done, but you're gonna run out of it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I sort of agree that I feel like the Survivor / Total Drama format is much more reusable than the Ridonculous Race format.
Yeah, I think one thing that'd be really cool to see in Total Drama is the rock draws.
Oh
That'd
yeah,
be
definitely.
really interesting.
Because
But-
that's one of those things that I feel like could add more tension as well.
Yeah, because you just see the tie and it's like, okay, time for the rock draw, and then you just really have no idea. Because instead of having those like BS eliminations where someone just gets eliminated because they came last, it's like,
Like Lashana, for instance.
yeah, that was just
Yeah.
instead having like a rock draw. It's like, oh crap, who's going to go home now?
I feel like another thing that Total Drama really dropped the ball on is idols. They had
Oh,
like
yeah.
Not
I think
nearly
I'm trying to
enough.
think how many they had. I know they had one
That
in
too.
They had one in
Yeah, they had-
Revenge and one in All Stars.
yeah, the All Stars one was played off very poorly. In like it was supposed to be a dramatic play, but it really just fizzled out with Heather being pissed off, and that was it.
Yeah.
The Revenge one was
And
great.
then the one in Revenge of the Island was much better. I especially liked the fact that the whole Dawn thing, where she was like, "I have the idol." No, you don't.
No, I made a fake one.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something they could really play up a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh, similarly, another interesting thing they could add from Survivor is loved one visits.
Love
Like they had
Ooh,
the
that'd
whole,
be-
they had the whole Lashana thing in Total Drama Action, but it's very isolated.
Yeah. And they had those like what is it? The stuff from home packages in
Yeah.
TDA.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
I
we never
really
really
need to rewatch TDA.
TDA was one of those seasons that like it's a problem with mid-calls is that they typically don't get rewatched very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very guilty of that.
I
And
also
it was a really slow season with so many non-elimination episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of.
yeah, there was too
goes
few
to-
Contestants.
Yeah.
It's
It
like
was kind of like 12.
World Tour got it right.
there was 15.
How many were there in
15
World Tour?
non-elims.
18.
Yeah, World Tour got it way better. Like World Tour didn't feel like there were too many non-limbs.
Yeah. Plus they had the aftermath in there as well, so that filled up a few episodes in both.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's any other differences that we can really compare about the formats of Ridonculous Race and Total Drama. In the end, I think we can, in review, I feel like both formats have their merit for returning, but naturally, since it started as a Survivor show and the Total Drama format is much safer, I feel, to use than the Ridonculous Race format, it's much more likely to see more Total Drama format in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridonculous
Definitely.
Race format.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're all got done here.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
Alright, thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next episode when we figure out what we're going to discuss again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Help us.